Hello, this will be part 2 in a foliage prop modeling and texturing demonstration. Last video we talked about how to model with curves and NURBS and then convert to polygons of a modular foliage prop. So that's what we have here. I have some limb structures and then I have different leaf structures. Okay, and the whole idea is that I'm building this from a modular standpoint so I can build a whole variety of different kinds of trees or tree parts from these base forms. So this video is going to discuss how to UV map. So we're going to open up the UV editor, and the way I'm going to approach this is by doing planar maps on all of my leaf structures. That should be pretty simple and self-explanatory. And then I'm going to treat these just as how I would UV map any kind of cylindrical form, because that's what these are. They're just tapered cylinders with some more curve-based detail. Okay, so let's tackle the larger objects first and then work our way to smaller objects. So as I'm UV mapping a NURBS to polygon object, I already have a pretty good kind of line down the length of it that should create a starting point for my UVs. But in case that's not there, you can always select your object and then go to UV and planar. It doesn't really matter the order, that just resets the UVs on the entire object. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and with an edge, let's do the inside edge here, double click on the edge so that selects an edge all the way down the length. Now what I really want to do instead is just an edge on one side, because if I double click it'll probably select an edge on both sides. So let's select the bottom edge here and then let's work our way up, hold down shift and double click on an edge there. That should select an edge line down the length of that, connecting the two all the way up. There you go. Alright, so that should just select an edge on that one side. So let's go to our UV toolkit, cut and sew, and cut. So that puts an edge down the long length. Now I need to address the caps. So what I'm going to do here is create an edge U or C shape all the way around. So let me hit F to zoom in. So I have a circle but one face open, or one edge open. So let's cut that. So that way this cap will flap open to one of the sides. Okay. Long line down the length, U or C shape on the cap. Let's do the same thing for the bottom of this as well. Maybe we'll leave that one open and cut that. Here we go. So with cylindrical shapes with caps, one line down the long length is cut, then a U shape on each cap there. So now when I go to object mode, go to unfold and click unfold, I should clearly be able to see what's going on here. So it looks like there's the base, the thickest part, then there's the thinnest part, the end of that shape. Let's turn on our checker pattern, see what that looks like. It's a pretty good even checker pattern. And beyond that, I'm not going to refine the form, because an organic form doesn't need to be completely straight in horizontal and vertical lines for the UVs. I want the organic angles and curves to really stay in my model and all my textures. So other than coming in here and rotating this a little bit so it's more vertical, I'm not going to change the UV form anymore. So that should do pretty good there. So let's repeat with these other objects. So the only thing I really need here is one line down the length. Let's actually go to UV planar to reset everything. And then we're going to select a line vertically. Here you go, and cut that. That's from each cap, and then we're going to address the caps as a U or C shape. Let's do the same thing down here. Alright, so just to repeat and show the action again, one line down the long length, U shape on the cap, or C shape. And we'll do unfold. So each one of these shapes should unfold the exact same here. There you go, so we'll make that vertical, look at the checker pattern, pretty good. Move on to the next. Okay, turn checker pattern off. Actually, let's start with UV planar, and then we'll come back with the edge mode and go, cut. And this is just repetition from the same thing we did earlier. So U shape on the cap. Yeah. Go to the other cap. U shape on the cap there. And we'll do unfold. There you go. So I'm going to leave it as the same form. I'm not going to adjust the shape of it because that also looks at the way the base geometry is set up. So this is a wider but shorter section. And this is going to be a thinner and smaller section. So we're going to repeat. But I'm going to leave the forms as is. It's going to make it easier for it to naturally find the base form. So let's make sure we're going back. There we go. All right, cut. So the same exact idea, U shape, C shape on the cap, long line down the length of it, connecting the two caps. Okay, and then unfold. There you go. All right, so we're gonna do this last one, and then we will go to the leaves. All right, so we're gonna repeat one line down the long length. Here you go, we'll cut. So do planar first and then cut the lines. We're gonna do a C shape on the cap. C shape on the cap up here. There you go. All right, so then when we go to object mode, we'll unfold. There you go, so all of our tree limb sections are unfolded properly. Now they're on top of each other. We'll take care of that in a minute. So that's the more complex part. The easier part is actually to UV map all of these planes. So let's go to our leaf structure. And what I'm gonna do here is just do, first off, just a planar map. And then we're gonna unfold and then adjust the scale as we need to. So we're gonna go to UV with this first leaf selected. I'm gonna go to the box beside planar this time and make sure it's a y-axis, considering this is gonna be a vertical projection. I'm gonna do apply, so there we can see it. All right, and then I'm gonna unfold. Okay, sometimes the unfold is gonna do a good job, sometimes it's not. So I'm actually not gonna do unfold this time. But make sure I get my UV shell and scale this out a little bit. And the key part there is so that the checker pattern is going to be pretty consistent. Okay, whereas like this is going to be scaled some. So I'm trying to create a shape that is consistent to the form. Let's go to the next one. We'll do a planar. And we'll try unfolding again. Yep, so it's straightening some areas out, so I'm not going to bother with that. But with this one, let's turn our checker pattern on. I want to scale it in. So it matches the shape that I see here. So my squares on the checker pattern are pretty consistent. All right, let's do the same thing here, planar. And unfold's not gonna work again, but that's okay. And we're just gonna scale this in drastically, so that way I have a checker pattern, because that's gonna be much thinner of a form. So we want the UVs to match the shape of the 3D form. All right, those are unfolded, so let's take our disc shapes. It's already flattened out, so we don't need to do too much here, but let's just do unfold. So that evens that out according to the actual forms. Let's do unfold there as well and unfold here. And then I just need to know this one is going to be a little smaller. This one's going to be a little bigger. And then this one's going to be even size. And we'll come back and adjust scale later. All right, so for the side forms, let's change it so that it's an x-axis planar, because this is from the horizontal side. I know that because the x-axis is this direction. So planar. Let's try and fold. Yep, so it's not going to do too much, so let's just do, let's just see what it does. Yeah, it's kind of curved in some areas. I think that's okay. Gives me the base form there. Let's do the same thing for this one. So let's do apply, unfold. It might twist it around. That's okay. This one's a little larger than the other one. Okay. And then the third one, planar, unfold. It's going to twist it around a little, take it back, and scale it up. There you go. You look at the checker pattern, but that should be pretty good on that form as well. Might need to scale them out a little. There you go. Looks all right with that one. Let's go look at this one. Try to get so we can see it. Yeah, that square is pretty good. And then this one, maybe this is a little wider there. There you go. I think that's all right. All right, so everything is UV mapped. Now we need to compile everything into the same UV space. So let me turn off my checker box or checker pattern, and let's just separate these things so that they're all kind of in their own separate area. So there's a leaf. So I know they're not, you know, all kind of overlapping. All right, there we go. Here are our limbs, and there's our leaves. There you go. All right, so our biggest thing is definitely the tree trunk. So that needs to be the largest. So we're gonna make this as large as we can within the space, the 0 to 1 UV space, which might be something like that. There you go. All right, so the next key thing is scaling our limbs so that they are textured roughly the same size. So they're going to need to be much smaller. So what I'm looking for is a checker pattern on the base that's roughly the same size as my limbs. So that's pretty good. And I'm going to scale my limbs, all 4 of my limbs, down until I get a rough size for the checker pattern that matches the base. There you go, that's pretty good. Let's turn our checker pattern off. So now we're just going to move them apart. Let's make sure that the limbs themselves are kind of proportionate to each other, which they're really not. This one's a little bigger, so that one needs to be larger there. Scale them down a little bit. There you go. And then this one is a little smaller, so the scale of that one needs to be a little bigger also. There you go. That one's pretty good. I think they're all pretty good now. All right. So we want to make sure everything is kind of proportionate to each other. I'm just going to take this one and kind of try to cram it in as large as I can up here. Roll it upside down and kind of put it there. Yeah, this is kind of my next largest one. So we'll put that one there. This one's a little bit bigger, so we'll take this one and put that there. Then there's our last little limb. Okay, there we go. All right, so probably the next biggest thing is going to be our canopies, which our canopies might actually be a little bit bigger than this. We may change the scale of our canopies in general and then move them apart from one another. That'll work. All right, so let's select everything so we can see everything. So our canopies don't need to be that big, so I'm still going to take all of those scales, scale it down, so that once again, overall, I have the same checker pattern shape. Now, my leaves are going to have a little bit bigger or UV space than some of these other forms. So I think that's okay to start with. And then I'm just going to kind of cram these in here as large as I can within the space that I got. That looks pretty good. All right. All right, the next largest thing is our kind of a tree billboards or leaf billboards. So still they're going to need to be smaller. Now we'll look at everything. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Maybe a little smaller. There you go. And we're going to try to cram these as large as we can in here. So there's that one. Actually, this one needs to be a little bit bigger than the other ones. So we'll put that one there. And this is our medium one. And this is our small one. So we're going to have to try to cram these in. Maybe we'll scale all these down just a little bit more. Try to get everything in here. There you go, that'll work. And our last things are the individual leaves. So these will need to be a little bit large because we don't want to have two pixelation going on here. So the checker pattern on them is going to be much smaller. That's okay. Maybe that big, but let's see. We do need to kind of scale these proportionate to each other. So let's go look at the checker pattern on these. Okay, that's pretty good. That looks pretty good. So I'm looking at the scale and the checker pattern, put each three of these. There you go. Then now we can scale all these down a little more. Try to get them in this space. So maybe that one gets there. And that one can go there, and that one can go there. Okay. All right. So we can scale these down just a little more because we don't need to be that large, but I think that's pretty good for the leaves. So the goal is we have different tree bases, tree parts, and they're all separate. And then we're going to go texture these, and then we can build our tree forms, as many different variations of tree forms as we want. So that's how we can UV map our tree parts in a modular way. And then when we create our tree piece, we're just going to duplicate these forms over and over again. So there's our kind of finalized, finished UV map for our modular tree. All right, the next video we're going to come back and talk about texturing.